Alrighty then. Well, that brings us up to Toyota. And I guess I've kind of done these in my ranking, my personal preference ranking. So uh, I'll say this about Toyota. There are not many Toyotas I would not recommend. As I've researched a lot of used cars, I have actually found some Toyota problems that have come up I want to tell you about that you need to keep in mind. It may surprise you. But as a whole, as an automaker, Toyotas have been quite reliable. And I know everybody can have I know there's a lot of people who have a bad Toyota story. This blew up, that happened. That's all going to happen. But as a overall, Toyotas are highly reliable. They're well put together. There's probably some that are better cars than the others. Tercel. Not many people want a Tercel. Not many people want an Echo, unless you're a gas mileage fiend. But, that said, and, some of the older Supras, they had problems with the head gaskets and those, and the six-cylinder engines and those were kind of weak, mechanically weak. But overall, Toyotas have pretty strong engines. They have pretty strong transmissions. There's no transmission problems that jump out about them. That said, I think there's some Toyotas that are overvalued. I think the Tacomas as a small pickup truck are way overvalued still. So you're probably not going to be able to afford one of those unless you get one that's got 300,000 miles on it. But there are a few issues I want to tell you about on Toyotas that you need to watch for. First of all, and they involve the same car model, if you can believe that. It's actually a couple different ones. I'm sorry, I got one of them. But the first one you need to know about is some of the earlier Camrys, like about from 97 on up through '02, had potential to have some oil sludge problems. So it's not all of them. It's not all the time. It's not near as bad as some other models, not like the Chrysler, but some of them did have it, and they had to have the engines replaced. So anytime you're going to buy a Camry of that era, you need to take a look inside the valve cover with a strong flashlight, look down in the oil fill hole, and see what it looks like. If it's kind of a clean or it's just a little golden brown, that's fine. But if you see any black crap in there and it looks gummy and gunky, no, run away. It happened on 4-cylinders and V6s, so you need to always check that before you ever consider buying one of those cars. And they seem to run, without that happening, they seem to run a huge amount of miles. So I wouldn't not recommend buying one. Just be careful about it. Now, actually, I was considering buying a later model Camry, like a '02 on up. And that's the one that actually went to the different engine. That's the restyled Camry that you see so many of these days. I drove one of those. They're a real pleasant car to drive, real boring, bland car, but real, easy to drive and easy to maintain. They're real reliable. But there's actually started becoming a problem with those cars. You can start Googling this and double check me on this, but evidently, as these cars have gotten older, that there are, in the 4-cylinder engine, at the back of the engine, there are 3 head bolts. And those head bolts have been loosening up and causing an external water leak at the back of the engine. It's on the back side under the intake manifold. So it's not all of them, but it's that same engine. Not sure what that designation for that engine is, if that's the AZ engine or not. But it's the 2.4 liter 4-cylinder in the '02 on up Camry, like through '06, has the potential to have that problem. So anytime you're considering buying one of those cars, absolutely take a flashlight and get it up on a lift and look at the back of the engine up under the intake plenum where it bolts the engine, and see if you see even the remote hint of moisture up there. Everybody is saying there's a piece of foam pad that's against the engines, like insulation, and that thing gets wet and you can see it. So just be very, very, very careful about buying a used Camry of that model, like '02 through '06, because of that problem. Now, I can't believe that. I thought I'd never say that about a Camry, but evidently, Toyota is not immune from it. So the other problem that I wanted to tell you about was about the Corolla and the Celica. Those engines, the early ones, like through 98 through 02, use the I think that's the Z engine. The Z, is it called a ZZ? Anyway, it's the 1.8 liter engine that was in those model years. And a lot of people have complained about them burning oil, excess oil use. I've got some ring problems. They got it fixed in 03, so the 03 on that Corolla is safe on that. But I don't think I'd recommend a 98 through an 02 Corolla or Celica for that reason. So be very careful about that. I had an 03 Corolla, and I'll tell you something about that car. That was an extremely reliable car. But the only problem is I did not like the seating position in that car. It was strange. When you had your seat adjusted up where you could reach the pedals good, the steering wheel was too far away. So you're always reaching for the steering wheel. So I never really cared for that car that much because of that reason. So you need to be sure, if you're considering one of those, an 03 through an 06 or 07 Corolla, make sure you like the driving position in it.